Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning, Adefemi. You are still in London.
Good morning, Ayo.
We need you in
Morning,
Nigeria.
Good morning to you, viewers. This is clearly a very tough day for the entire Arise News family. And I commend you all for your wonderful performance so far. And Dr. Rubin, you are very much cherished by all of us. Just to underscore the fact that we are truly a family here, despite the grief and the heartbrokenness befalling all of us. Let me first tell you what is happening around the world. Our one and only story on the World Brief this morning takes a look at US President Donald Trump. He is calling it a historic deal for peace. He, alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, have unveiled their latest peace plan for Gaza. Let me take you through it. Firstly, if we break it down into its key points, what we are seeing initially is the calling for an immediate ceasefire. Firstly, so those ceasefire would mean the military operation in Gaza would cease, would stop immediately. The hostage exchange thereafter would mean Hamas would release 20 living Israeli hostages and return the remains of over 24 more within 72 hours. That would be in exchange for hundreds of detained Gazans. Now, prisoner swaps would also be involved in this, aid delivery, Hamas's exclusion from any future governance, future statehood recognizing Palestine, security measures. Hamas would lay down arms, destroy tunnels and weapons factories. Israel would not annex Gaza and will withdraw forces in stages. And then lastly, there would be an economic plan put in place with the US pledging a development program to rebuild Gaza. Those are the key highlights that we are seeing in this peace plan. But let's look at how the world has been responding to it. So firstly, you've got Arab and Asian states such as United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Indonesia, and Pakistan releasing a joint statement welcoming President Trump's leadership and supporting his support of a two-state solution. You've then got UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who is urging Hamas to accept this deal and end the misery. Then you've got French President Emmanuel Macron, who has called the plan a basis for lasting peace tied to a two-state solution. And then you have former British Prime Minister Tony Blair also describing it as a bold and intelligent plan. A lot of world powers coming together to really speak with one voice and urge Hamas to accept this deal. It is unclear whether or not this is something that will warm up Hamas's side of the negotiation table. But we do know that when we're looking at Arab allies, for example, they are going to be a lot more comfortable with the wording that we are seeing here in this proposed plan. Now, this announcement does come off the back of Netanyahu's apology to Qatar for violating its sovereignty with those airstrikes earlier this month. You remember, those airstrikes did result in the killing of a Qatari citizen and 5 deaths of low-level Hamas members. This was a huge provocation, according to Qatar. They were not happy with Israel's behavior. So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has apologized for that and promised that such a thing would not happen again. Now, this apology did happen during a phone call at the White House, and it is believed that Qatar welcomed the assurances that were discussed. So as it stands now, this is yet another peace plan. This is not something that has been, signed off or accepted by any margin, but importantly so, it does show that we are, at least as a world, moving towards litigating what a peace could look like. This is no secret to us who've been following the Middle East and following geopolitics, that we have seen a series of ceasefires, of peace plans, and often they are broken before the ink on them even dries. It is hoped that this is not something that will happen, especially since we have so many different world leaders chime in. But what we haven't heard from yet explicitly is Hamas and from their supporters. If they think that this is a deal that they are happy to participate in, and if they think that Israel will perform in good faith, will withdraw its troops, will abide by the terms because it has struggled to do so in times past. That is our World Brief story for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts before we move on to the newspapers.
Femi, thank you. You see, all I just see with this, their 20-point plan is another hypocrisy from the West. 20-point plan, where you are subjugating the Palestinian people. You say you will have a board of peace that will be led by Trump, a man that does not believe in the Palestinian people. A man that set up something, that tweeted or put on his Truth Social what's he called on the Riviera, Gaza on the Riviera, that wants to turn it into a real estate space. Then Netanyahu, in his very bragging tone, says, we can do it the easy way or the hard way. Very mafia-esque statements. And they said if Hamas does not agree to this, it will continue its pounding of the region. Then they said they will raise money to be able to fix the same country that America used the bomb to destroy. And they are trying to throw Tony Blair in the mix. All of this, there are no Palestinians in the fray. The committee they are trying to set up, probably they will put in the Egyptian billionaire Naguib Sawirim there. It's another propaganda. Israel will be the first to violate this. As Israel not violated building across occupation lines all this while, as is Israel not committing a more heinous crime in the West Bank? This is not a path to peace. This is a proposal to assert dominance. And now they've told Hamas, take it or leave it or we'll keep pounding you. I think it's time for people to call Netanyahu to order and tell Netanyahu that you are not God. This will not work, and you will see the reactions. Secondly, I think the hypocrisy of Netanyahu swearing by fire and brimstone that he will never bomb another man's territory again. Ask Netanyahu, is this the first time he bombed Qatar? Is this the first time they bombed Qatar? In the spirit of looking for Hamas. Do you know that the Hamas people that lived in Qatar that Netanyahu was trying to attack, it was under Obama to be able to facilitate a peace process that the Americans said they should keep the Hamas people in Qatar so that Qatar will be a negotiating ground. So is it today that Netanyahu has been bombed because he offered an apology? Because Trump forced them to call? How would Trump not force him to make an apology? Because Trump just collected the jets from Qatar. You see, we live in a hypocritical world.
All right. Adefemi, you talk about Palestine's response to this 20-point peace deal. According to some sources, a high-ranking member of Hamas have said that they're not very optimistic about it, as it doesn't clearly define. There are a number of details that are left out of this 20-point plan. And so even though, as you already cited, world leaders, especially in the West, are hailing this as a significant move in the right direction to potentially seeing the end of this war and seeing peace in that region, the Palestinians themselves are saying that they don't know yet, or the deal does not quite spell out whether or not Israel will fully withdraw from Gaza, especially the West Bank, which has been a key contention in this conflict. They also talk about lack of detail in terms of the hostages that will be released, listing or naming the Palestinian hostages. That's also under contention. They also talk about post-war governance and how ambiguous that's been in that 20-point plan. So no clear direction as to what will happen post-war, but just almost like a rush into just accept a deal and let's get this over and done with. And we know that President Trump has been quite anxious, if I could use that word, or eager to end the war, and put it under his belt as one of the wars that he's resolved. But a number of people have opined that perhaps it's skewed more in the favor of Israel. No surprises there, Israel and America have been long-standing allies, and President Trump himself has stood solidly behind Israel. The ball, as it were, is in the courts of the Palestinians. But the big question is that would they accept this? And then beyond accepting, this isn't the first time a sort of peace deal has been drawn out for both parties, with either of them not fulfilling their part of the bargain. So it's number one, would both sides agree to this? Looks like Israel is tilting in favor of this, but the Palestinians who feel like they have the short end of the stick might not agree to this, or might bring forward their own proposal based on some additions or subtractions from that deal. But to be fair, I think we are finally getting to some headway to this, and what people want, both from the Palestinian side and the Israeli side, is an end to this conflict and peace in the region.
Okay, very quickly, what are the details of the 20-point peace plan being proposed by the United States? One, that there will be a board of peace in place which will be controlled, overseen by President Donald Trump, and one of the members will be Prime Minister, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. And Tony Blair says he's happy to be part of that process. Two, leaders in the Middle East and in Europe, France, UK, Germany, Turkey, Indonesia, which is in Asia, Pakistan, Qatar, Jordan, Egypt, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and all of them, they say they welcome this latest development to the extent that it will bring peace. Now, when you look at the details of this peace proposal, it says that Hamas will have to disarm, will not be part of the future of Gaza. There will be immediate cessation of military operations. Existing battle lines will be frozen in place until all conditions are met for a stage renewal. Now, there will be exchange of hostages. Hamas will release hostages. Israel will also agree to the proposal to release hostages. The future of Gaza is a major issue. Now, it's basically an economic development plan, but where are the problems? One, Hamas is not part of this negotiation. They were not called into it. We don't know how Hamas is going to respond. However, Israel and the United States meeting yesterday, Monday, have said that whether Hamas likes it or not, if they don't agree, Israel will finish up the job. And U.S. says we will support Israel to finish the job, which will be the complete extermination of the region that is known as Gaza. Mahmoud Abbas, who spoke a few days earlier at the UN conference, General Assembly, says, we are positively disposed towards this. We want to be part of it. We think Hamas, as Mahmoud Abbas himself has said, should have no future role. So it is still what do they call it? A roulette, It's still something that is a developing story. Over 66,000 persons have been killed since October 7, 2023. Part of the plan is that if Hamas agrees, humanitarian aid, full humanitarian aid, the document says, will resume. Would that happen? Would Hamas agree? So I think we still need to hear from Hamas. But from our own side, any projection, any attempt at world peace will make sense. And it is something that everyone should support. But basically, I think at the root of it all is President Donald Trump hoping that he will get that Nobel Peace Prize that is very desperate about. But, Israel says it will not attack Qatar again. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has apologized to his counterpart, Prime Minister Mohammed Al-Thani of Qatar, to say that, look, whatever happened was a mistake. They were targeting Hamas leaders, not Qatari citizens. But we'll see how this goes. So it's not time to celebrate yet. That's the conclusion, editorially, I think.
Certainly not. Certainly not. Well, thank you all for your wonderful submissions.